The Arctic covers more than 15 million square kilometers. It is under pressure from rising global temperatures and increasing geopolitical interests. This called for international cooperation and science diplomacy, and the European Union has put forward an updated and comprehensive EU Arctic policy that asserts its priorities, addressing the effect of climate change, safeguarding the Arctic environment, supporting sustainable development, and fostering international cooperation. The Copernicus thematic hubs, among which the Copernicus Arctic Hub we are presenting today, have been created by the European Commission under Copernicus. Copernicus is the European Earth observation program that provides authoritative, accurate, up-to-date data and information on environmental and climate changes to help policymakers and citizens make informed decisions. As the entrusted entity of the Copernicus Marine service, Mercator Ocean International has also been tasked by the European Commission to implement the Copernicus Arctic thematic hub. We are happy today to introduce you to these hubs, which is a new Copernicus Central Repository for data and information related to the Arctic. It includes interactive maps and offers Copernicus data to support evidence-based decision-making and sustainable management practices. Mercator Ocean is of course not alone to implement this Copernicus Arctic Hub. We have strongly collaborated with all the other Copernicus entrusted entities and the related Copernicus services. I leave them now the floor to tell you how they have contributed to the Copernicus Arctic Hub, which assets they have put forward and how it will support the implementation of the EU Arctic policy. So please, over to you.
The Arctic waters and coastline are unique. This is an incredibly diverse ecosystem, home not just for whales and seals, but to marine species that don't exist anywhere else in the world. This whole region not only impacts our global climate, but it is also threatened by the climate change. The Arctic is extremely vulnerable to pollution events while being a challenging area to monitor. Greenland alone is over 2 million square kilometers in total, with a coastline that's more than 44,000 kilometers long. So the Copernicus Maritime Surveillance Services contributes to the protection and preservation of the environment. This is the key pillar of the EU Arctic policy. Through CMS, we attempt to support Danish authorities with the dedicated monitoring over Greenland waters. We send near real-time images and added value products which allow Danish authorities to swiftly monitor and assess any potential pollution incidents in the area. This supports a swift decision-making and response. Also, Greenland and the Arctic as a whole is experiencing increased shipping traffic, notably large cruise liners. This presents a challenge for safety of navigation and search and rescue activities. CMS product supports the maritime surveillance in the region across a very large areas of the ocean. The Earth observation products that we provide to the authorities bring significant value to the operations. CMS is a part of the security services of the Copernicus program, so it is restricted to the national authorities with a role at the sea as well as EU bodies and institutions. Through these services, we can optimize surveillance efforts and the support of the European Union commitment for peaceful, sustainable and prosperous Arctic.
There are a number of products from the Copernicus Emergency Management Service that can contribute to improving our knowledge about the Arctic. For example, we have been monitoring wildfires or the movement of an iceberg in Greenland close to a settlement on the coast. As you know, disaster risk management is an important element for adaptation to climate change. Weather-driven hazards such as forest fires, floods, or even droughts can also impact the Arctic regions. And the Copernicus Emergency Management Service has the capacity to provide a monitoring and forecasting of such weather-driven hazards also in the Arctic region. Cross-collaboration between the different Copernicus services is fundamental to create synergies. This is particularly important if we want to help preserving the Arctic region, as changes in the Arctic regions will have a direct impact also on the rest of Europe.
The Arctic is often considered the thermometer of the planet. It's warming much faster than the global average, and we see the sea ice extension going down year after year as a consequence of the global warming. But the Arctic is much more than a piece of ocean. The Arctic is changing over land, is changing over glaciers. And the way in which Copernicus Climate Change Service and Copernicus Atmospheric Monitoring Service will contribute to the Arctic Hub is through a set of indicator and variable focusing on many other realms, from the thawing of the permafrost of the land that affects stability of structure and even the possibility of moving in the Arctic in winter, to the change in the snow cover in the mountains that affect peak flow in the river system, to the discharge of the water into the ocean, in the Arctic Ocean. All these elements are affecting significantly the climate of the Arctic. If we go beyond the European areas and extend to North America and to Greenland in particular, we see that the dynamic of the Greenland ice sheet is also strongly affected by the global warming. And we have seen in 2022 record melting of the glaciers affected by this stream of hot and humid air from the tropic and causing rainfall over the plateau of Greenland. These are some of the elements that we will provide into the Arctic Hub, as well as elements related to the chemistry in the atmosphere, from the fluxes of methane and CO2 emerging from the Arctic bogs and from the thawing of the permafrost, to the dynamic of the ozone in the stratosphere that affects so significantly the radiation on the ground. These are some of the elements that will contribute to the Arctic Hub.
The European Environment Agency is leading the cross-cutting coordination of Copernicus access to in situ data. Since the Arctic is a region very sensitive to environmental changes, in situ observations are essential to understand the processes behind these changes, to improve model predictions, and to help in the validation and calibration of satellite observations over that region. The EA is supporting the Copernicus core services in a number of cross-cutting activities in the domain of in situ data. For example, we have prepared a catalog of ongoing and former Arctic observation campaigns, and we are also making available to the Copernicus services a wide range of in situ observations in the domain of ocean, sea ice, and atmosphere. The collaboration between the different entrusted entities within the Copernicus program is essential to deliver on the EU Arctic policy. Within its cross-cutting role, the EA will continue to make available key essential in situ observations over the Arctic to the Copernicus services, and in 2024 will be publishing an inventory of relevant sea ice and snow observations over the Arctic.
I would like to warmly thank DG DFIS and all the Copernicus interested entities and the Copernicus services for their contribution and their involvement in building together this Copernicus Arctic Hub. I would also like to add that the infrastructure of this new platform is not built from scratch. It takes advantage of the existing Copernicus Wikio infrastructure. Moreover, Mercator Ocean International, as the interested entity in charge of the Copernicus Marine service, also provides with key marine information to the Arctic Hub. It ranges from sea ice cover, wave and sea temperature, which are key to monitor the Arctic Ocean environment. We hope that the Copernicus Arctic Hub will become an asset to support the EU Arctic policy by reinforcing the European Union commitment to addressing Arctic challenges and promoting a sustainable future for all.